Good evening, morning, Steve. How are you today?
I am wonderful, Phil. How are you doing all the way down in wonderful Australia where it's summer?
Well, it's coming into summer, so looking at your screen and looking out my window, we're just about on even par, I think, in some ways. But
Yeah, but that's an aberration for here. We're about 20, 21 degrees Celsius. It's a beautiful day here.
anyway, just to give people a bit of a time snapshot of when we're recording this, we're right in the middle of the waiting for the big election result.
Yes. Biden is leading, but Trump is like right there. It's actually one of the closer races that I remember in my lifetime. The last one was Bush and Gore with the whole hanging Chad thing, where people were looking at these ballots to see if somebody poked it through. The election, well, it will be what it is.
It will be what it is. And and I suppose my take on it is it'll be analysed to death, leadership styles, all sorts of things. It will be fodder for people for many years to come. So
I'm sure there'll be books and all sorts of things written about it. And there's an analogy here somewhere, because I think that if you actually look at one of the forum posts out on the CWG that talks about, third-party modeling tools, you could get some of the same type of analysis and yes, they're good and no, they're bad and I don't know and so forth and so on ideas.
Yeah. So that's our topic, isn't it?
Whoa! Amazing. How does that work?
I don't know. I can read your mind sometimes, and
all the way through the screen. It's the power of the internet, thanks to Al Gore.
Yeah, great. So, okay. So, no, you did right. There was a forum post about just asking about, I suppose the place of third-party tools and should we do it? Shouldn't we do it? Whatever. And so.
Good morning, Vietnam! Hey, this is not a test. This is rock and roll.
I quickly learned that you had a particular interest and view on this topic. So, let's launch into it, I suppose.
Well, I do, yes. I started my career in VC modeling in 1993, but it was actually in a legacy system. And when I first got into that job, the very first thing that came to my mind, as crazy as my mind is, was, why do I have this job? None of this data is mine. It's all mastered in other systems, and all I'm doing is translating. And that does not seem to be value add in my mind. So, there's been lots of conversations about that throughout the years. And one of them has always been, well, hey, let's take all that master data and stuff it into a third-party tool and then have that tool translated into this.
Every decision I've ever made in my entire life has been wrong. My life is the complete opposite of everything I want it to be. Every instinct I have in every aspect of life, be it something to wear, something to eat, it's all been wrong. Everywhere.
Tuna on toast, coleslaw, cup of coffee.
Yeah. No, wait a minute. I always have tuna on toast. Nothing's ever worked out for me with tuna on toast. I want the complete opposite of tuna on toast. Chicken salad on rye. Untoasted, with a side of potato salad and a cup of tea.
Well, there's no telling what can happen from this.
We call the VC model.
Okay. Yeah, and I suppose from my perspective, I've struck like third-party modeling tools a little bit from the consulting end, where some companies have looked at, well, let's not convinced about, say, VC tools. Do we need something else? And obviously there are companies out there that provide Yeah, what?
You mean to tell me there's actually a VC tool somewhere within SAP that actually works?
No, well, it might be our definition of what we're calling VC tools, but yeah, just the modeling environments of, layering something over the top of what VC does. But...
Well, just to make it clear, within SAP, there's this thing called the PMEVC, Product Modeling Environment for Variant Configuration. And compared to what there was before the PMEVC is a fantastical, wonderful, magical tool.
It's mine. My own. My precious.
However, you have to understand that it's within the native confines of SAP. And the PMEVC has actually been around since roughly 2007, as far as I remember. It's been enhanced multiple times. And oh, by the way, there is actually a SAP PLM customer engagement initiative that allows you to decide and, input what you want into the PMEVC. But that is the only modeling tool within SAP at this point in time.
Yeah, and not everyone uses it either. But that's another topic.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know that it exists, which is really, really sad.
Yeah.
So hopefully more people will know that it exists now.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So in your context, we're talking a bit broader than that then.
Yes. So, the post in the CWG was about, it was a third-party software vendor saying, what are your experiences with modeling tools? Be they within SAP, be they without SAP, and how can we make this better? And first off, I give the company that made that post a lot of credit for being willing to ask that question. They're a software vendor. Typically software vendors say, here's my software, like it or not, this is what it is. And this particular vendor said, we're not sure what we should do. Will somebody please help us figure it out? I give them a lot of credit for that. There's not a lot of companies that are willing to do that.
Okay. So, so they're obviously reaching out and looking for experiences or opinions or another voice, I suppose, of, thought.
Well, and as you know, I have more than one opinion on things. So I actually replied to that post saying, I like this topic. They're trying to talk me into a webinar, but they won't send me enough bourbon to make it worth my while as a retired guy. So I told them we'd do this video. So here we are doing this video. And, it boils down to the fact that, in my opinion, a third-party modeling tool is not necessarily the way that we should be pushing companies to go.
Okay.
So people master data in, everybody's familiar with a PLM system, product lifecycle management system. That's where your bills and materials are managed and your engineering stuff transfers your manufacturing BOM. People aren't as familiar with PIM systems, product information management, or CMS systems, content management systems, which typically deal with graphics and so forth and so on. My contention is that your business entities are entering data into those systems and mastering whatever data they want in those systems already. Why do I want to take it out of those systems and put it into a third-party system so I can translate it and put it into an SAP system? Right. Why can't we just move it from the source system to the SAP system in one step? And years and years and years ago, I did a presentation on that topic. It's out on the forum. I think I did it in like 2009 or some nonsense like that. We'll find it and post a link somewhere over there. Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm just of the opinion there's really not a third-party tool that can appropriately interact with the source systems and the target systems.
And so what do you think is the roadblock there, that just because there's such disparity in the way companies work, or is it a technology gap, or like do you see a path through that at some point, or?
I do. As in fact, I do see a path through that. And, SAP they didn't pay attention to me. because I told them they needed to partner with a different PL company than they partnered with, who shall remain nameless, by the way. But the good news is that they partnered with a PLM company, and now they're actually working to make that transition a little bit better. The problem with that is that SAP is still stuck on what they believe PLM should be, which is what we used to know as the IPPE and now as the product structure browser or whatever the hell it is. But the bottom line is it doesn't pay attention to VC stuff worth a darn.
Yeah, and I think that's often the issue with VC in some ways, and maybe the way SAP structure internally as well, is that like as we know, VC goes across everything pretty much, but all the places where it goes across, it's sort of almost treated as an add-in. So they try and do this interface to VC, but it's not always well thought out, and so we end up with these delta gaps. There might be a limitation with IBP, there might be a limitation with CPQ or whatever, or some other area, and it's sort of so powerful but so ignored in some ways.
The place looks like a bit of a mess, but it's actually a very delicate ecosystem. Everything is connected. It's like the rainforest. You change one thing, even the tiniest bit, and the whole rainforest dies.
Yeah, and there was this project called Intelligent Product Design, and now it's morphed. It's got a new name. It's not IPD, it's EPD, and I don't know what the E stands for. Maybe it's Exceptional Product Design. I don't have a clue. I really believe SAP changes the product names to protect the guilty. But it's an ongoing project that has a lot of customer engagement. And it was one of the customer councils that I was involved in for all of 2019, a little bit of 2018 and all of 2019. But most of the people involved in that were not VC customers. There were only 2 or 3 VC customers in there. So, it's good to think about what we're going to do. But in the end, you have all these source systems coming in, right?
Yeah.
And you have the poor VC modeler standing there trying to go, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And it's almost like that Adam and Costello thing, with who's on first.
Oh, the man earns it? Who does? Absolutely. Well, all I'm trying to find out is what's the guy's name on first base?
Oh, no. What is on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, don't change the players.
I'm not changing nobody.
Take it easy.
What's the guy's name on first base?
What's the guy's name on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
He's on third. We're not talking about him.
And nobody can understand who's what and where they're going. And somehow or another, the poor VC modeler has to figure that out.
Yeah, no, I think that's dead right. It's really hard. I always find companies find it hard to define where VC lives in the organization quite often. Yep. And so it sort of gets thrown around. Like sometimes they say, oh, it's all about sales. So the ownership of VC is, sales, but they don't actually do the work. It will be some VC modeler who might be sort of more aligned to research and development or production. They just don't quite know where to put it. And so, yeah, it's interesting to watch where it does end up sometimes through the politics of companies and things like that. But you did right. Like, I think it's the modeler, the good modelers can come to grips with meeting all the, the various needs, whether it's sales, whether it's production, whether it's RD&E or whatever.
And so let's talk about standards, right? So I've been a guy who's been pitching standardization for a really long time. I mean, the first time I did it was in 2005 in the CWG with restricting characteristic domains.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is nobody will agree that we should have a standard because everybody wants their own flavor. So how do you bring a third-party tool to handle 1,000 different flavors, right? It's almost like it has to be customer specific.
Yeah, I always find it interesting, some of these discussions, particularly around, restricting domains, for example. There's always the debate about preconditions and constraints and variant tables and
constraints when.
Yeah. But the bit I struggle with is that, constraints to me are the best practice or good practice, however you want to term it. You go there first. There's no reason in my mind, and people will disagree, but preconditions to me should almost not be there.
So in my mind, and here we're going to devolve a little bit.
Yeah.
Preconditions are like Trump, and constraints are like Joe Jorgensen, who's a libertarian.
Right.
We won't even talk about Biden. Biden's completely off the scale. I don't know what he is, but don't go down the precondition road. Always go down the Jorgensen road and be a libertarian in the U.S. And there's my pitch for U.S. politics, and I'll shut up after that.
Okay, that's fine. But I suppose to your point, the trouble is in the VC world, it's been really, really hard to nail down a best practice. And like SAP are quite strong on best practice. They use that term an awful lot, but I find in the VC world, they don't really encourage it.
You know why I wrote restricting characteristic domains?
You're going to tell me.
I am going to tell you. So I was sitting at the CWG conference in 2004 in Philadelphia at Newton Square. And we were talking about various things, and one of the things that came up was, well, why don't people, have best practices? And I stood up and I said, well, the reason they don't have best practices is because the software vendor, SAP, can't define what the hell they are and how you should use their software. And a gentleman from SAP who shall remain nameless, but who I am very good friends with, stood up and said, that's not our place to do. That's the customer's place to do.
Interesting comment.
It really caught me by surprise. But then I took that and I said, okay, if that's the way you feel, here you go, buddy. And the interesting thing was in 2005, when we presented that at Marco Island, SAP was kind of going, yeah, that's what you should do. That's what you should do. It's like, but nobody does it. So how is a third-party tool going to do that? And I have an example of a standard that has been implemented in Germany. A gentleman who I'm very good friends with, named Eki Bayer, started a company way back in 1995 called Eastern Graphics. And they created a standard for Germany called OFML, Office Furniture Modeling Language, because Eastern Graphics was targeted at 3D representation of office furniture. And that standard has not really changed at all since 1995. The Germans love it. The French love it because, they can represent their models in 3D. But Eki actually saw that it was not something that was sustainable in the future.
Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over.
And he went off and he formed his own company called Intelligent Graphics. But now there's another standard. And in the end of the day, if you want to use a third-party tool, you're going to conform to that third-party tool standard. And most customers don't want to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's interesting. The one thing I've learned from involvement with you and CWG over the years is that there is, let's call it good practice with modeling. There are certain techniques that are proven and make robust models, all that sort of thing. And so you can have a standard approach. I know each industry has its different quirks and subtleties of how to model, but even then, I would argue that there's still a set of modeling practices that still would apply to that. I always think it's a shame that SAP don't quite buy into it, and I don't think it helps with selling their product sometimes. Particularly when in not so old versions of SAP or even current versions, you see these abilities to do, local dependencies, or you even see the word actions, things like that, where you just go, look, guys, it should just don't even let anyone think about those things, let alone do them. Like they just sort of hang on to that sort of thing. But I suppose, back to your point, what you're saying is there's lots of hurdles and risks, I suppose, in going down a third-party tool.
Well, what you're talking about with SAP and the actions and yada yada yada. We need to talk about that 2 steps down the road in the consultant trap, because I feel for SAP. I really truly do. I think I get a little bit about why they do that. But the reality is that until the customers decide we're going to land on this, whatever this is, as a best practice, and promote that amongst the customer community, a third-party tool is really nothing more than a customer-specific tool. And here's the drawback. Okay, so the AVC is actually promoting best practices because it only works in one way. We had 70 customers in the AVC Customer Council. And at any given time, we had less than 20 customers that would actually participate. So what do you do? Right? I mean, how do you get a consensus when you have less than a third? Damn, it's like the U.S. elections again. We have typically nobody that participates in the U.S. elections, and everybody says, oh, we should do this, not. But in the end, it's this really small group of people that are deciding what the heck is going to happen. And when you talk about a third-party tool interacting with that really small group of people, it's not indicative of how the general population using the software actually truly works.
I agree. And I suppose the interesting thing I find is just from my experience, both as in the consulting and also in the online training for VC that I do, is that if people are trained the same way within an organization on the approach, it really helps standardize the modeling approach, when they get new people or what have you. And so you remove a lot of this fuzziness of approaches from different modelers, etc., things like that. So
well, that depends. Are they modeling for their legacy crap or for their new stuff?
So, well, the issue is, and it's probably a whole other topic, is like my training follows good practice, for example. So a company will go, right, yep, we want to train new people, maybe some existing modelers and things like that. But their current designs are not best practice, and so at times they have to rethink, or that do we start to reinvent our models again, and maybe we need a third-party tool to do that.
Well, again, as one of the first major customers in the U.S. To use your software, it was really more of a, oh shit, I can do this? Because nobody knew that you could do this, right? Even though I'd been telling them that for 20 flipping years, they've been doing all the old garbage because that was what they were locked into due to their extracts and their legacy business processes. But at some point in time, a customer has to say, I'm going to break away. And what better time to do that than the transition to S4?
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Right?
Yeah, no, I agree. And, we're probably dropping off into other areas.
No, I don't think so, because my point is that even when you're transitioning to S4, you're still going to have source systems, and the ERP system, S4, is a target system. It's not a master data system. I'm sorry. The master data is maintained in other systems. The ERP system is a transactional system. Yes, it requires master data, but that master data should not originate in the SAP system. I mean, Jesus Christ, even procurement, that doesn't exist. That does not originate in SAP. That originates typically in Excel. Okay, I'm fine with that, but why do I have to replicate it? Why do I have to translate it? That's my issue. And this is where I come back to third-party tools that don't deal with that. I have yet to see a third-party tool that will take data out of a source system, master it, and then translate it. And by the way, they have to govern it too, because without governance, you have nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, SAP doesn't have any governance for VC objects. Whole nother topic, but they have zero.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So I suppose the takeout is in your view, there's probably nothing immediately that does everything. If you want to go down that path, tread carefully. Is that where you're sort of coming from?
Yeah, it's been 27 years that I've been doing this crap. And you would think that with technology that somebody could get this stuff together, right? But I'm a music geek and I love the band Yes. So, it really strikes me that using a third-party modeling tool is like climbing this mountain and crossing this river, which is a song that Yes has.
We're sort of getting into rock and roll state of mind. Writing a song about mountain climbing, which is a very dangerous thing to do. But we've all got to climb mountains every day.
And the reason that it's like that is because there's all these voices. Another song called Nine Voices. And yet, in the end of the day, if you can get there, it's the heart of the sunrise.
You're lost on a wave, but you're dreaming. Dream on to the heart of the sunrise.
But nobody has been able to achieve the heart of the sunrise. We're still back at the south side of the sky trying to climb the mountain. And honestly, I don't see third-party tools getting there for quite some time.
Okay. That was very poetic, by the way.
You're so full of crap, Phil.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I think that was a good discussion. Like, I found it good. It took, some of my definitions of, I thought, where it was were, different to yours. And so hopefully just that little discussion makes it clearer for people of what we are talking about who may not read.
Yeah, and so remember, if you like what we're talking about, there's going to be a button either here or here, I don't know, over there somewhere where you can subscribe and pay attention to us every now and then, and maybe even suggest a topic like one gentleman did.
Yes. So, call out to Jason who suggested a movie and a topic to go with it, basically. Yeah, which I thought was an interesting one. So looking forward to doing that one. So.
Thank you, Jason. We greatly appreciated it. I think we should do that one next, Phil.
Okay, we'll do that. And we just got to see where we can scrounge the content from to put it together. But, the internet is a wonderful thing.
I'm sure the movie's on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, no, I think there are bits of it at least, and so we can do that. So looking forward to that.
Subscribe, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, and we will attempt to do something interesting next time.
We will, and we'll put this one together. It'll be fine.
Thanks, Phil. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.